to At Home with the President. I'm Anita Huburn. It's International Women's Day today, and the President sat down with women from across Guyana to discuss issues concerning them and also to tell them how government is working to solve those issues. Let's take a look.
International Women's Day happens to occur in our country close to the time when we remember our founder of the People's Progressive Party and the president of our country, Cheddi Jagan. And why it is significant to mention Cheddi Jagan, because he has done an enormous amount of work in order to liberate women in our society. And together with his wife, they have done tremendous, great work in Guyana to raise the consciousness of women and to get women involved in political struggles in Guyana, from the fighting for independence, fighting for democracy, and now women occupying very important positions in our country. I'm extremely proud that I've come from that tradition of Cheddi Jagan and his party, because it was our party that gave the first elected woman to any position in Guyana was Janet Jagan, who was elected in 1951 to the Georgetown Town Council at that time. And then she was among the first women together with Jessie Burnham and Jane Phillips Gay, to be the first women ever to be elected into Parliament in 1953. All came on the ticket of the People's Progressive Party. And under the PPP, first woman minister of government was again Janet Jagan when she was Minister of Labor, Health and Housing in 1957 to 61 government. And of course it was when our party had been in government that we have had the first Chief Justice in our country, a woman, Desiree Bernard, and the first Chancellor of the Judiciary, again Desiree Bernard, ascended to that position. It was under the PPP civic administration when that happened. And we also had the first Prime Minister, female Prime Minister, and female President, all came from the People's Progressive Party and under our administration. So therefore we come from a tradition in which we were rooted at a time when women were terribly oppressed. We were rooted in the belief, in the philosophy that women are equal to men, and we led that struggle to ensure that we had equality of the gender in our society. And that is something that we have to be enormously proud about. And I am extremely happy that this is one of the legacies of Cheddi Jagan, one of the legacies of Mrs. Jagan, one of the legacies of the People's Progressive Party, that we have led the struggle at a time when it was not popular to do so, to lead the struggle to bring equality and justice for women in our society. We have come a long way since then, and we have practically had great achievements of our women. Many countries in the world will envy the rights and the progress that women have made in Guyana. They are now at every institution of learning. They're either equal or in the majority in some cases. They are in the professions where they never used to be before. They are in the professions. Sometimes they dominate, like the teaching profession. They dominate completely. Our women have also are now moving into other areas that were not traditionally seen as women's areas like engineering and science and technology. So I think that we have a lot in our country to be proud of, the achievement of our women. And someone once said, I read somewhere, someone said that you can measure the development of a country by the extent of the progress of women in that society. And if we use that yardstick in our society, then we can say that we have gone a very, very far way as far as our development is concerned. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you this afternoon and to get an opportunity to hear from you directly, to hear your concerns, and to try to respond to your questions as best as I can.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Padmini Singh, and I have been working with a lot of women in the communities. I know for a fact that a lot has been done, but there is yet a lot that needs to be done. So my question to you this afternoon is that I would like to know what reform will you pursue in your next term that addresses women's rights and gender equality?
Well, as I've mentioned just now, we have gone a pretty far way
Yes.
in this regard. We have passed some of the most advanced laws that exist anywhere in the world. We have passed many of those laws. What we have to do is to increase the capacity of the state to enforce many of these laws in some ways. There are still some areas where we can find gaps as far as implementation is concerned.
Yes.
So therefore, that is an area I think we have to strengthen in several ways.
Okay.
But we have put the laws in place. We are going to, these things are constantly under review to how we can perfect them, how we can develop them, and create the atmosphere and the environment so that you have greater participation of women in every aspect of life, in the political life, in the social life, in the economic life of our country. That is the bottom line that we want to have, and to have no impediments to women being there. As I've said, we've achieved quite a lot. We have achieved, I would say, more or less equality in salaries, wages for comparable jobs, and everything else within the society. And there is a great lot that we could be proud of. So yes, we will continue to pursue those areas. The fact that I have chosen Mrs. Harper to be my prime ministerial candidate and running mate is not only because she's a very talented woman and she has a lot of areas of experience in government. She's worked all her life in government. She has tremendous managerial capacity. But she has her own life experience too as a woman, and she has some own strong opinions on that. And I will be able to have her to help me focus on many of these problems that directly affect women, so that we can be able to resolve them in a proper way, to improve the laws, to add to them, to deal with the various issues, and at the same time to look at concerns, to be in touch, to be in close touch with the women community in our country, to look at their special needs and their concerns so that we could address it within the governmental system itself.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I'm Ms. Debbie Argyle. I'm from Mahaika and working in that committee. We have observed that women represented over 50% of the population of Guyana. Yet dramatically are we not represented in the government. We would like to know that you can ensure that we women are being represented not only in the government, but in the judiciary.
Well, I think, let us put it in perspective. As I mentioned just now in answering to another question, I think we've come a very far way with women. If you compare us with the rest of the world, you see we have gone very well. We have more than 33% of our parliament are women parliamentarians. That's more than the Congress in the United States have. And the Congress is normally held up, United States is normally held up as the greatest democracy. But we have more women in our parliament than the United States got in their Congress. But I am not satisfied with that too, as well. I agree that we have to have greater scope for greater involvement of women in every aspect of government. Although we can be proud of how far we have come, I still agree that we still have much, much more room for improvement in government. And what I will try to ensure is that the next government that I will form will have even more women in parliament and will have even more women at decision-making levels. and that in every aspect of our governmental service that government provide, we will try our best to ensure that the voice of women are heard, their presence will be felt in every area, and their influence, this is probably the most important, their influence on policy and decisions must be there. And that is what of course, we will continue to work for the ideal so that women will become equal within government, equal in parliament, the 50% that they say they represent, or even more. Because when you look at the amount of women graduating from universities and from secondary schools and other institutions of learning, you will see that the foundation is now laid for women to even take up more and more responsible positions than ever before. Within the judiciary too, there are much, at one time you had to admit that there were very few women lawyers in our country. Now they are more or less quite a bit. It's almost coming to be equal. And that is also reflected in the growing amount of magistrates and judges in the judiciary as well. But there again, they will have big scope for improvement. And I will be ready. This is an independent part of government. I must point out to you that the judiciary is an independent part of government, and judges are appointed by the Judicial Service Commission. But I will be extremely happy if the Judicial Service Commission sends to us more women to be sworn in as judges. I'll be very, very happy for that. And that is quite possible now because there are much, much more lawyers, women lawyers, than ever before in our country. So that is a work in progress, I would say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Council President.
Good day, Mr. President. I'm Claudine Ben from the East Bank. This afternoon, I have a very important question for you as a concerned Guyanese woman. Domestic violence has claimed the lives of many Guyanese women. I'm asking you what you plan to do to prevent this in your next term of office. I'm glad you asked me that question. It's a very important question. It's one of the burning questions in our society at the moment as well. And I'm very happy that you have asked that question. I don't think that there's one thing that I could do about it. I think this has to be seen it has to be tackled from many different directions. Education being one, that we have to educate our people. We have to also create an atmosphere in our society where our society will become intolerant to these type of things, where we will be, in a word, where we will become our neighbor's keepers in that way. That we cannot hear some brutalization taking place in a house and we ignore it to say that that's man and wife business or that's the family business, that's no concern of us. We have to intervene in these type of situations. So that's one area that I think we have to have. Education is one area, and to sensitize people more and more about these things. Secondly, we have to have our laws too. We have been putting in important laws in place, and we have to also enforce them. And we have to give more training to our security forces and the police in general to deal with these issues. This has got to be part. It is beginning to happen now, but it has to be more intensive, that the police must be trained specifically to deal with these issues more and more. And then I would like to create like a center where women can go and they can have women who are people who are abused in this way, domestic violence, that they can go and they can have counseling and they can have other services that will go along with them and support so that they can develop. They will not by fear or anything like that tolerate that type of behavior, and they get the kind of support they need. So I would like to create some centers where women can go to access this type of support, this type of service,
in order to raise their level and to also to fight against domestic violence, to take these matters to court. The court itself, we have already have, I would like to establish a special court to deal with these cases so that they're not prolonged and left a long time in the wilderness, and we can have quick resolutions of these. And I think if we combine all of these from the different angles, then we can make a major dent on domestic violence in our society, and as we work towards the total elimination of this scourge from our society.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have confidence in you, and I know you will do as you say. Thank you very much again, Mr. President.
Thanks.
Good day, Mr. President. I'm Priya, and I'm self-employed. Last year, in March one evening, I was attacked. My question to you, what are some of the systems you would put in place to safeguard women, since since they might be a little more vulnerable in society? What are some of the systems your new government would put in place to protect us?
Thank you for the question. The question is really, I think, a broader question than that. It's creating the atmosphere in our society so that not only women, but everyone in the society can conduct their business and go along with their affairs in a safe environment. And how do we increase the security of our country more and more? And that is what we have been working on for a while now. One, specifically from the crime perspective. I think women as well as men, businessmen and so forth, we've got to become more aware of their areas of vulnerability and so forth, and how they deal with that. And in that case, I will seek with the police to try to talk more, to run more courses or programs for business people as a whole, to allow them to raise their security consciousness. People who move around with a lot of money and who could be attacked because they're doing business and walking around with a lot of cash and so forth, how to deal with that. So people conduct business with less cash in hand, that they can use credit cards, they can use checks and other forms of payment. With the way technology is going now, a lot of people can pay their bills online. So we want to encourage more and more of that, that will reduce the necessity for people walking with large amount of cash to conduct business in that way. So that's another area that we're looking at. The third area too that we have to look at is what I've been speaking about earlier in other programs, creating more higher paying jobs for young people. That will also help to try to cut back on the crime. But the fundamental issue from the point of view of policing is to make our streets safer, putting more, using more technology in fighting crime, putting more policemen if necessary on the road to try to ensure that our population is safe. We have been also using technology. We're putting more cameras to detect crimes and to solve crimes quicker at the same time. So once we have these things in place and all of these things come together, first of all, we try to work towards crime prevention and in solving crime to try to solve them quickly and to move them to the courts as fast as possible. And I think in that way, we will be creating the atmosphere to have a very, very safe environment where people can work and conduct their business in a very secure environment.
Good day, Mr. President. My name is Sabrina Apple. I'm from Kairuni. I have a question to ask you. Is it any way, or are there any way or means you can enhance the women in the hinterland community?
Yes, that is what we have been working on now. You know, probably from your own experience, you know, that we have gone a very, very far way in looking after the social aspect, not only of women, but of people within the interior community. We have built schools, secondary schools. We have provided our children with school books, so forth. We are allowing our children to go to school, and we are encouraging parents to keep their children in school by taking the economic pressure off of them. That's one. This program that we have is now to try to improve the village economy. And you will have probably noticed that in many, many villages, we work with the villages to see what they need to improve their capacity, their productivity and production in the interior areas. We have been giving them tractors with plows, helping with transportation, many, many areas in that area. The opposition, unfortunately, had cut the budget. That's one of the things in the last budget that they cut out of the budget with these economic programs. But we have also set up some small loans to be able to lend women and other business people in the interior so that they can also create their own jobs. I myself was in Aishalton a few weeks ago, and I was very surprised to see the entrepreneur nature of many of the women there. I was surprised to go and eat in a restaurant in Aishalton, a fairly good restaurant in Aishalton run by a woman. She also has cattle. She has a small ranch. She supplies some of the school with meat. She buys a lot of peanuts from people in the area. And we have been working with her and others in these areas to help them to try to get appropriate technology in order to increase their production and productivity. For instance, peanuts. The Rupununi produce a lot of good quality peanuts. But a lot of the business places in Georgetown don't want to buy them because they buy them in the whole shell and everything, and they import these nuts from abroad. But we are now trying to help to get equipment, technology, so that they can peel the nuts, peel off the red skin from the nuts. That will help them to be able to store more because they don't have to be stored with shell. It will help them to transport more to the market, and it will help them to earn more because they're delivering clean nuts instead of nuts within the shell itself. So we have created a lot of small business. We have small business bodies that can help and advise women and business people generally in this area how they can improve their businesses. And apart from that, we've had other programs too to help women, not only in the interior, but right across the country. But it's open to women in the interior as well. The Women of Worth program, for instance, it's a very, very good program where we've gone to arrangement with the banks to lend women who want to go into business. They have a good idea, they want to get into business, but they don't have the collateral. And we have worked with the banks to bring down the interest rates. And because of our tax incentive that we use with the banks, for them not to charge heavy interest rates on these loans and so forth, that they help women to develop their capacity to be successful. And they can grow from micro business to eventually to medium and very big business. In the many of the big business in the world today started out as small micro business. Some started in garages, some started in backyards, in the kitchen and so forth. And so now some of them have grown to be multinational business in the world today. So that is what I dream about, to see our women developing their capacity and that they now can also be involved in business and they can stand their ground in business with anyone else, and they can be very successful in this regard as well. And I'm very confident that that will happen in the not too distant future. If you look at our university, we'll see that a lot of the business students and management students in the university are women. And you never had so much of women studying at higher levels of institution in business subjects and in other subjects in the profession as we've had today. So I have every confidence that the foundation that the government is laying, apart from all the infrastructure that we're putting in place, will certainly facilitate the rapid growth of more business headed by women in our society.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. In addition to that, I have another question before. What you could do for teenagers in the whole would drop out? Because from my community, we have a lot of dropout teenagers, especially boy and girl.
Well, we have been doing some training right now through the Ministry of Labor. We have trained thousands of people already in different skills. For instance, we've been training them in mechanics, in electrical engineering. Those who don't like those type of subjects, we have like catering, beauticians, many subjects, and we have laid this out right across the country. I was invited, unfortunately I couldn't go at the time I was invited, to the graduation class in Camarang. So we had clear classes in Camarang, in Lethem, in different parts, in Bartica. We were graduating students. I went to a few in Georgetown and in different places. But right across the country, heavy duty equipment operators, for instance, a lot of those operators in the interior working in the mines are people that were trained by the Ministry of Labor, the program that they have. So we have that program specifically dealing with this category of people who for one reason or another did not finish their school, and try to give them a second chance in life to earn properly. So that is one of the programs we have. Another program also is headed by the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. Now on these programs, we hope to expand on them, to make them even bigger, to put more resources in them, because we see the benefits. We make people more productive and more important members within the community themselves. So we will build on these programs. And at the same time, we have been working to prevent dropouts from school. Actually now, you know that Guyana has the least dropout rates in the whole of the Caribbean. The least, that's an important achievement that we have. And largely it's because of our program in taking some of the pressure off the parents. Like we provide free textbooks, we provide free exercise books, we help parents with school uniforms. In the interior, we even pay the women there to sew the uniform for their children as well. We help with hot meals in school. Those in the interior attend the dormitories. The government provides 3 meals a day for them. So we take the economic pressure off the parents and allow them to keep their children in school. I think also we have to look at in every area specifically why kids will drop out of school, because there are a lot of things that we have done to assist parents to keep children in school. Last year we even gave them $10,000 for every child they have in school to encourage them to keep their children in school. So in other areas you might find problems like transportation. I know on the highway we had found such a problem, and we assisted with trying to provide a bus to take the kids in school. And many of the other communities, we help the communities with buses, and the communities organize, like in Laluni and these places, to bring their children out to school and take them back. So many of the riverine areas also, we have helped to provide transportation to take children to school. So maybe we have to look at the specific areas and to see what is the problem, to design solutions to those problems. But our goal is to try to have 100% of our children who are of school age, that they should be attending school, because it has tremendous benefits for a whole society. It impacts on all the questions that you've asked. On crime, it will impact on that, because we see that there is a direct correlation with crime and education. It has an impact on crime. It has an impact on quality of life within the society. So we are looking to keep all our children in school. We have succeeded in a far way, as I mentioned to you just now, that we have the lowest dropout rates. And we have the highest enrollment rates in kindergarten education in school in the whole Caribbean. So that is the direction we're going, to try to keep all our kids in school and to look at this. We have the general things that we're doing, but we also look in the specific areas to see what are the problems and where we can help to ensure that our parents keep their children in school.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure hearing from you directly. It's always better to have this type of meetings to get a direct feel of what are the main concerns that you have within the society. And that will help. I want to assure you that it will help me in crafting policies to ensure that our women have a good quality of life in our country.
We've come to the end of another edition of At Home with the President. Do join us next time for another program. On behalf of the production team, I'm Juanita Hubbard. So long now.